Hey everyone, it's been a while. I really wanted to do this video. I thought of it this morning and I just thought it would be a really good one to share. It's going to be going into my Tiny Tips playlist, and this video is going to be about editing. And I know some writers out there really struggle with editing, and it's often a bit like a Marmite part of the writing process. I find, like, some people or some writers, either they love it or they loathe it. Personally, for me, I quite enjoy the editing process, but I think it's because I've learned to look at it in a different way, in a more positive way, because obviously the writing process is very subjective and it's a very emotive journey to go on. So when you get to the editing stage, you suddenly have to put on your objective, critical hat and you have to look at your writing without your emotions. But I find if you actually keep your emotions to a degree, it really helps with the editing process and it makes it so much easier. So I was just going to share with you a little bit about a recent piece of writing I've done, and how I kind of did the editing process. So I've been working on my short fiction manuscript for quite a while now. I need to get like beta readers, so if anyone out there sees this video and they're interested, please, I would love to get some beta readers. So at the moment I'm getting it ready for that stage. I'm doing another round of editing. I've done a couple of rounds already, and I was editing one of my short stories in the short fiction manuscript, and it's called Even Flowers Cry, and I'm really proud of this story. It's I think it's one of the most powerful pieces of writing I've ever done. So I liked everything about it. I liked the plot, the imagery, description, the characters, everything like that I was happy with, but it was the ending. There was something about the ending that was niggling me, but as you know, writers often have crippling self-doubt, so I wasn't sure what to do about this. And then a colleague at work, who I've only met through my apprenticeship at work, she's a couple of years older than me. She went to uni and did English literature with creative writing as a degree. So that was quite nice, like, to know a bit about her background, to think, oh, that's cool, you like writing as well, so that's really nice. And I asked, and she obviously knows that I like to write, people at work know that I like to write, and she offered to read some of my work. So I sent her Even Flowers Cry, but that was my older brother. So I sent Even Flowers Cry to her, but I didn't tell her that I had doubts about the ending. You know, because I thought if I let her know my doubts about the ending of my story, then that's going to that's obviously then instantly going to plant that in her mind when she reads it, and I didn't want my personal opinions of my story to affect her, so I didn't tell her anything about it, which is probably a bad thing, because, you know, some people do have triggers and you should warn them about the potential triggers in your book. But I was like, oh well, you know, you've done creative writing, it's fine, I'll send it over to you. Sorry about that. But she was fine. And she gave me really positive feedback, which was lovely. But she also mentioned the ending, and she said she wasn't sure what it was about it, but she basically she confirmed what I was thinking about my ending. I had doubts about it, and she was like, she didn't know how to explain it, and I was literally like, no, thank you, that's exactly what I needed to hear. And then I kind of paused and I was like, well, I don't actually know how I want my story to end. So I kind of asked her, not to copy her, but I asked her for some opinions, like, where do you feel like the direction of this story is going, or what would you like to see, like just some thoughts and feelings about it. And she then offered me a completely alternative idea that I had never even crossed my mind. She said, have you ever considered developing this into a novel, because it feels like there's just so much more to say. And as much as I loved that idea, and if I really wanted to, I probably could turn it into a novel, I was like adamant in my mind that no, this is for my short fiction manuscript. But when she put that idea in my head, I started to think about one of the characters, Lucius, and she said, you know, he could grow up and things could happen, and I obviously don't want to spoil what my short story is about, so sorry if it sounds a bit vague. But anyway, it just started, she offered some ideas and I started to think of things, and then I just had a hit of inspiration and I knew how I wanted to end it. And I was brave. But to help writers out there who might have anxiety about editing, because I know it can be a really anxious part of the process for you, if you're not entirely confident that what you're going to edit is going to work, copy and paste it into a separate document and save it. So that way, even when you're editing, you can always return to your original piece of writing and you can put it back in or take snippets from it. So I did that. I removed it, but I saved it on a spare document until I'm like certain that, you know, the new ending's better. And I typed it up and I sent it to her just, you know, for confirmation, just to see what she thought. And she said, you know, it ties it up nicely, and that's what was missing. It was like the circle of the story was missing. It didn't feel complete with the original ending that I had. So I guess editing doesn't have to be a chore, and I always look at editing as making my story as powerful as it can be and just improving it and making my story even stronger. And the feeling you get when you like problem solve is really rewarding, and you may go down like a different path of your story that you didn't think you were going to go down. But editing isn't anything to be afraid of. Like I said, you can save your original pieces of writing but on a separate document, and then you can read it through and see if it all ties together and work, but you can always put it back in. So just be brave when you're editing. Be objective enough to look at your work critically and not to be emotionally attached, although easier said than done because you've probably spent like hours, weeks, months, years working on a piece of writing. But when it comes to editing, I just always look at it as you're making your work stronger and, you know, it's worth it. And once you can look at it objectively but use your emotions to determine obviously what you're doing is right. Like when I edited my ending, I read it back through and it just felt right. I just thought, yes, this is what was missing before, this is the ending that I needed, not the other one. And then it doesn't even matter anymore. The old ending's just like, forget about it. It's like, this is the new ending and it works. So just be brave when you're editing. If anyone's out there watches this video, thank you, and good luck with your own editing and your own writing projects. Thank you. Bye.